Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm just going to discuss briefly a quick overview, or give you a brief overview, quite honestly, not a briefly, about Delta Lakes. I've talked about Iceberg in one of my videos, and I've also talked about Apache Hudi in another video as well too. And in each one I also made references to Delta Lakes, so I might as well get in it for those of you who aren't aware of what Delta Lakes are, or what Delta Lake is. I might as well tell you about it a little bit more and give you just a quick brief overview, basically. So it's basically a new data lake storage format that's gaining a lot of traction in the big data community. Let's put it that way, a lot of traction. It's a lakehouse storage format that combines the best of both worlds, the reliability and performance of data warehouses with the flexibility and scalability of a Delta Lake, or a data lake, sorry, of a data lake. It's built on, of course, Apache Spark, and Delta Lake is actually mainly contributed by and created by, of course, Databricks. So hence, Databricks putting Delta Lake in place on top of Apache Spark works out really well. Specifically, if you want to use a Spark SQL or other sort of data engines that now Databricks supports, specifically Databricks SQL engine, it works really well in that aspect and provides sort of a unified view of all your data, especially large amounts of data, whether it's stored in a traditional data warehouse or a cloud-based data lake. Now, like the way Delta Lake works is basically it uses a sort of transactional log to track all the changes to your data. So think of it like if you're familiar with Oracle, from the Oracle back in the day of change data capture, it's similar in that aspect. All it really does is basically capturing all the changes of the data that have occurred. So it's basically a transaction log, but it's stored into a point where, like, if you ever want to go back to that point in time of that transaction log, you can do back sort of like a quote-unquote rollback aspect and then go from there. So this is one of the things, because of that you're able to apply ACID transactions on your data with a data lake. It's nowadays with data lakes you can't create ACID transactions, but now with a Delta Lake you can do ACID transactions, which is as I said, a huge advantage over a data lake. Delta Lakes also provide a number of other features that make it a great choice for big data, such workloads for, like snapshot isolation. Now, snapshot isolation is a case where, like, it ensures that the data is always consistent, even if multiple users are accessing it at the same time. Think of it, like I said, like in a database world, that's where snapshot isolation comes into play. Time travel, as I mentioned, that's where the change data capture comes into play. Allows you to revert to a previous version of your data if you need it for that point in time. And you could also go through that logging of the history of the data to see what changes were made and such whatnot. Now, of course, there's the streaming integration as well too, where it can be used to ingest data from streaming sources such as Kafka, Event Hubs, or any other of these pub subs that are out there, or Google's pub sub for that matter. Now, of course, some of the use cases for a data lake, or Delta Lake, sorry, a use case for a Delta Lake is the biggest one of all is data warehousing. Delta Lake can be used to build a modern data warehouse that both reliable and scalable. And the fact that it supports that acidity aspect of things makes it much more a viable option than, like, large portions of, let's say, the Snowflakes, the Redshifts out there, where you really more of ingesting incremental data, or if you have to overwrite the data, you have to delete the data and then re-ingest it in at that point as well too. Another aspect is like for the big data workloads is, of course, on the data lake. Delta Lakes can be used to build a cloud-based data lake that's both flexible and cost-effective. So think about it this way: you want to create files, into the data lake, you do that. But the thing is, like, you can still upload those files and the existing files and still have a transactional log of those files within the data lake if you have to revert back to it. Think of it like the S3 buckets, a history of the S3 bucket data files. But of course, it increases the size of the logging, so therefore you're paying for that a little bit. It's about that one as well too. And of course, well, Delta Lakes not only streaming, but there's also the case of, like, for machine learning as well too, where you can build machine learning pipelines that can easily access and process data from a variety of sources. Now, some of the pros, of course, of a Delta Lake is one, as I mentioned, basically is the ACID transaction. That's a big thing, specifically when it comes to large data sets. I mean, Parquet does not have that ability to do the ACID transactions, but at least with a Delta Lake you can. Other aspect, again, of course, too, is time travel, like CDC, change data capture. That's a big thing as well too. You'll be hearing that a lot, as well as the fact of streaming integration. But I think that's more of a case where it's almost everywhere out there. The other thing that's sort of that become the de facto now that replaced the MapReduce framework is Apache Spark. It's built on top of Apache Spark. So more often than not, you're running your Spark jobs, Spark SQL, you're running it against the Delta Lakes at this point as well too. And of course, another big pro is it's open source. Databricks, fortunately, is able to open source it out there, so like people can apply it and use it whenever they need to. One of the cons, of course, is it's still relatively new. It's still still under development. It's not as widely adopted as like some other data lake storage formats, like in this case Parquet, Avro, ORC, and whatnots. And depending how it is, it can be a little complex to manage, but it's once you pass that learning curve, it becomes a little bit more easy, but it's still a little complex. Now, of course, like I said in my prior videos, that there were 2 videos I talked about. So some of the sort of competitors, quote unquote, to Delta Lake is Apache Hoodie, Apache Iceberg, of course, Google BigQuery, Amazon Redshift, was it Azure Synapse, Snowflake in a ways as well too. Even though Snowflake's going to be incorporating Iceberg, it seems like are going to be supporting Iceberg at least in that case. Now, some of the companies that are using Delta Lakes, which is now becoming more predominantly adopted, especially the fact is if you're using Databricks, Airbnb, Spotify, Uber, Twitter, Lyft, Walmart, they're all companies that are starting to use, that are in the Databricks world or the Databricks framework, that they are utilizing Delta Lakes at that point as well too. It's a very powerful new data lake storage format that's quickly gaining popularity. I think it's much more popular to the point of like if you're put it this way, if you're going to be utilizing the Databricks framework, you'll be using Delta Lake. Trust me on this, because like more often than not, more people are going to utilize it at that point versus just using Parquet in that aspect. If you're looking for like a reliable and more flexible data lake storage format, then Delta Lake is definitely worth considering. Now the thing is like between, let's say, Delta Lake, Apache Hoodie, and Apache Iceberg, it's up to you, the user, to use depending on your use case and what you need to do and like some of the loads that you're planning to apply at this point. And some of the sort of storage engines or data storage engines or data processing engines, I should say, that want to process the data and like what supports those storage formats and that aspect. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Thanks. Please leave your comments in the comment section. I do read my comments when I get notified, and I do respond to them when they warrant a response. If you have any questions, or if you want me to go a little bit more in depth into Delta Lakes, I'll gladly go into more in depth into Delta Lakes. I don't have any graphs or anything like that because reality, I don't like doing that when I'm doing quick brief overviews. If you do want me to go into it, I will have those in place. And also other aspects as well too is with Delta Lakes, as well as anything else. I could do another video of comparison between Delta Lake, Apache Hoodie, and Apache Iceberg, but it's up to you if you want me to do that. I might just do it anyways. I might just do a quick overview or quick comparison between the 3. I'm not going to do any benchmarks because one, that's a little bit more intensive and I don't have the bandwidth to do that just yet. Maybe down the line I might do it, and some more use cases between the 3. And also, if you want me to go more in depth, please let me know, and I probably will try to create a video for that, but that might be more than a 10 to 15 minute video. It might be 30 to 40 minute video, maybe more, I don't know, depending what it is and what the use case may be or what the request might be. But with that, I'll leave it at that. If you enjoy my video, enjoy my content, or enjoy my channel, please subscribe. If you do enjoy this video, I do ask you like or dislike, or if you enjoy or don't enjoy this video, please hit the like or dislike button. It's up to you. I'm not saying that I'm an expert in Delta Lake, by the way, or Apache Hoodie or Apache Iceberg. I am really familiar with it because I keep myself up to date with these things, and I do try to mess around with it to see if they're applicable to my use cases of what I need to be using for. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Again, if please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I want to say thanks for watching, and I hope this helps. With that, I'll leave it at that.